What is up, everybody? My name is Nate, and I am so excited to welcome you all back to another episode of the Chokehold Hour. As I said in our last episode, I am here doing the review of the fights that went down this weekend. I told you guys I am not a liar. We are going to be talking about the huge boxing fight that happened where Tank Davis snatched Ryan Garcia's liver, and the UFC Fight Night where Pavlovich showed he is a true bad MFer at heavyweight and is a contender to stay. So guys, let's jump right into it. First, we're going to be talking about the biggest boxing fight in recent memory, Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Tank Davis. Guys, everyone was excited for this fight, and my God, did it deliver. I was nervous, on the edge. I really was on the edge of my seat for every single second that fight lasted, for the duration of that fight last night. It was an incredible fight. And I just want to come out and say that I am impressed with Ryan Garcia's performance, despite the fact that he lost by TKO. Gervonta Tank Davis is a scary dude. You know, it's no easy task to step up and face Gervonta in the ring and be willing to take a punch from him. So Ryan Garcia did not just do that; he did it well. He was very boxing. He was very fundamental in the boxing ring. He kept his hands by his chin. He was bringing his hands back to his chin after he threw. I was impressed with his fundamentals and his ability to just box with a guy like Tank, so good on Ryan. I think Ryan's issue that whole fight was overcommitment. Tank, I said this in my preview, he does not get enough credit for his technical ability in the ring. He's very precise and he knows what he was doing. He was luring Ryan into traps that whole fight. Ryan was the aggressor in that fight, if you noticed. Ryan was the one coming forward. He was trying to impose his jab, impose his will on Tank Davis, and set the pace and the tone of the fight, but Tank didn't really let Ryan do that. Tank, he stayed reactive. He let Ryan throw. He reacted to Ryan's throwing, to his punches, and Tank, he was very good at ducking out of the way of Ryan's hooks and then countering, which scared Ryan. And in that second round, when Tank was able to counter him so badly to the point where he knocked him down, Ryan was a little nervous. He felt Tank's power. He was like, okay, this guy can actually knock me out. I don't want to do too much. So Ryan kind of started the fight over-aggressive, overzealous. I think he was over-committing, and Tank was taking advantage, capitalizing on Ryan's mistakes, getting out of the way of Ryan's big shots, and landing big shots of his own. And with Tank's power, you guys know Tank has that X factor. He's got that it factor, that ability to knock anyone out at any point. Ryan felt that power, and I think Ryan started to sit back a little bit. He became the one who was more reactive. He was letting Tank Davis control the pace of the fight because Ryan didn't want to get hit with that Tank Davis power. Ryan did not want to feel the fists of Gervonta Tank Davis, one of the strongest men, one of the strongest punchers on the earth, connect with his face, and I would not want that either. I do not blame Ryan, but I think the only path to victory for Ryan was if he established his jab and set the pace for that fight and controlled the fight with his range and with his jab and with his boxing combos, and he was not able to do that. Gervonta Tank Davis was able to establish his power and his will before Ryan Garcia was able to impose his jab. So Tank was really able to just kind of take over the fight. I think it was kind of funny. Tank was, it was almost like he had a smirk on his face for the entirety of the fight. I didn't really feel like I saw him threatened. I felt that I didn't see Tank Davis feel a threat from Ryan Garcia. I know Ryan Garcia boxed well, but I think Tank, he looked very calm, composed, and poised in the ring for the entirety of that fight. So I think that played a huge factor. I think Ryan Garcia has never fought an opponent on Tank's level. I think the moment definitely didn't get to him, but he was tense. You could tell he was tense in that ring, and Gervonta Tank Davis, tense is not the word I would use to describe. He was ready for the moment. Tank Davis was ready to ascend as the next face of boxing's newest big superstar, and that is what he did. He did not just beat Ryan Garcia, he put a stamp on their rivalry, knocked him out with a perfectly placed body shot, snatched Ryan Garcia's liver. That is how you become the next star in boxing, in the sport of boxing, in a sport where violence prevails. Gervonta Tank Davis satisfied the crowd's need for violence and became that new big star. So yeah, I really do think Gervonta is going to be the new face of boxing after this fight. And once again, I want to say hats off to Ryan. He did a really good job, but when you're facing a guy with power and precision like Tank, you can't make too many mistakes. And that's just what Ryan did. He made too many mistakes. He was throwing looping hooks. His shots were not short and concise. He was not starting with his jab. He was trying to begin with his power shots. When all fighters know you got to set up your power shots with that jab. A right cross takes you around the block. A jab takes you around the world. That is a saying that spreads far and wide in combat sports, and Ryan Garcia abandoned his jab when he started getting countered. When Gervonta Davis started getting out of the way of that jab and landing heavy shots of his own in return, Ryan abandoned that jab, and in abandoning that jab, he lost the ability to win that fight because his will was no longer being imposed. He was not landing any punches. Gervonta Tank Davis was the only one doing any real damage. So hats off to Ryan Garcia. But he abandoned his strategy. Tank's power took over, and Gervonta Tank Davis won that fight, hands down, with a beautifully placed body shot. Right, that is the bread and butter, guys. That shot is how you end a fight. He placed that shot right where it would hit Ryan Garcia to shut off Garcia's insides. Ryan Garcia could not breathe after that shot. He could not move. He was frozen in space and time. He was frozen in that moment of defeat. And Gervonta Tank Davis won the fight. So yeah, Tank is really just a star. He has that it factor, that X factor, that power, and he is boxing's next biggest superstar. He is the next big thing in boxing. So what is next for Gervonta Tank Davis, the new star in boxing? Well, we have to remember there are some other guys he needs to clear out before establishing himself as the one, as the guy right now. We have some really talented boxers, especially around that lightweight division at the 135-pound weight. So let's talk about what's next. We can start with Tank Davis, the winner of that fight. Tank Davis did everything he was supposed to against Ryan Garcia. Now the question is, what is next? First, we have, of course, Shakur Stevenson. Now, Shakur Stevenson is very Floyd Mayweather-esque. He has that defensive ability to get out of the way and counter and make you pay for making a mistake. Now, Gervonta Tank Davis is a counter fighter. I believe that. I think we all saw that last night, but so is Shakur. Shakur is very technically defensively sound. Shakur does not get hit a lot, and he does a lot of hitting. We saw that when he beat Oscar Valdez, a guy who's a very talented boxer. He is like he's a Canelo type guy. Oscar Valdez, he can take a shot. He can land a very heavy shot of his own. We saw that when he landed his, I believe it was 2021 knockout of the year. Oscar Valdez is a very talented boxer, but Shakur Stevenson made him look like a child. Shakur Stevenson is probably the best defensive boxer in boxing right now. He really reminds me of a young Floyd Mayweather when he with his ability to just get out of the way and deal out damage of his own. I think him and Tank, it's an interesting fight because their styles are both defensive. They're both counterpunchers, so I'm not really sure who would take the role of the aggressor. I don't know who would be coming forward and who would be maintaining, staying in their comfort zone, countering, doing good work on the way back, because I think the key to winning that fight is maintaining their styles. Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Tank Davis are both comfortable counterpunchers. Neither one of them is usually the aggressor, so I think whichever one of them can control the pace of that fight and stay defensively sound and stay within themselves and within their usual strategy, I think that will dictate who wins that fight. But yeah, I think that is a possible super awesome fight in Gervonta Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. I think that these are two of the most talented young guys in the sport right now, and this fight needs to happen. Now, if that fight doesn't happen, there is only one other fight I am okay with substituting in its place, and that is Gervonta Tank Davis versus Devin Haney. Now, Devin Haney is a name I have not mentioned yet on this podcast, but that does not mean I haven't been thinking about him. Devin Haney is very talented. Now, once again, we have a defensive boxer. The three most talented lightweights are guys who can make the lightweight division at least. Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, and Gervonta Tank Davis, they're all counterpunchers. We see another one, Devin Haney. Now, Devin Haney, he fights a little differently than these other two. Devin the Dream Haney, he has a dreamy jab. That is what it all starts with. His jab is incredible. Devin Haney has the best jab in boxing right now, in my opinion, and he sticks that jab and works everything off that jab. Devin Haney is a counter puncher, but he also uses his jab to set up the rest of his power punches. Devin Haney, he doesn't have the pop that Gervonta Tank Davis has. He definitely does not have that God-given power. We haven't really seen Devin Haney display the ability to knock someone out cold like Gervonta can at any given moment, but Devin Haney has displayed his incredible boxing technical ability. He is just so sound. He does everything right in the boxing ring. Every time he punches, his hand comes back to his chin. When his left jab is going and on its way back, the right cross is already on its way. Everything is a flow state. It's one punch to another, to a dodge, to a roll. He never stops. He's always in action. I think Devin Haney is the best boxer of these three guys. I think because of his jab and his fundamental abilities to string boxing combos together and stay within himself, and he never really gets carried away. He just keeps jabbing and controls the pace and the range of his fights at all times. So I think Devin Haney is the most talented boxer of these three, and I think if he imposes his jab against Tank Davis, he can win that fight. Now, again, Tank Davis was doing a very good job of countering Ryan Garcia's jab, and Ryan Garcia, we know he has fast hands, so you can never count Tank Davis out. It is definitely a real possibility that Tank Davis evades one of Devin Haney's jabs and lands a nice overhand, putting him to sleep. But I'm not really sure. They're both very, very talented young boxers. I'd love to see them scrap. So yeah, the two fights that need to happen right now in boxing, and I say need, because they do need to happen. They are what everyone wants to see. It is Gervonta Tank Davis versus Devin the Dream Haney, or Gervonta Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. The three most talented prospects in boxing right now are in a triangle of war, and this triangle needs to be settled. I would love to see one of these two fights happen soon. So yeah, we will see what Gervonta Tank Davis does from here, but for now, he will bask in the limelight and enjoy his moment that he created for himself in defeating Ryan Garcia in possibly the biggest fight of the year. So yeah, that was an awesome main event last night. Hats off to both guys for stepping in the ring and being willing to fight and put their bodies on the line for our and the general public's entertainment. So thank you both. Congratulations to Gervonta Tank Davis, the winner of last night's contest, and that is all we've got for boxing today. But don't worry, the episode is not over. We are now going to jump our way over to mixed martial arts, and we're going to talk about the UFC Fight Night that went on this weekend, because, guys, I know we had a huge boxing event, but I don't think this fight night can go unmentioned. It was very entertaining. A lot happened. A lot went down that we need to unpack. So we're going to get into doing just that, and we're going to start with a fight that ended in a very weird and unsettling way in Bobby King Green, who is now legally known as just King Green, and Jared Gordon. So in this fight, Bobby Green, who thought he won by TKO, actually headbutted Jared Gordon, which that incidental clash of heads caused Jared Gordon to go down. He obviously took some damage. Bobby Green landed some nice ground and pound, and that was the fight. Now, the fight was called a no contest. There was no winner, and I have to say, guys, I agree with this decision, because if we look back at the Kevin Holland fight, when Chris Daukaus' younger brother, headbutted Kevin Holland, which led to a submission, the fight was ruled a no contest. So yeah, in past UFC fights, an incidental clash of heads does always lead to a no contest if a finish comes from the clash of heads. So I think the right call was made last night. Jared Gordon did not lose that fight. That being said, these two guys, it really sucks what happened last night, because they had the eyes on them. They're not like big guys, they're not big names, they're not super high ranked, but Jared Gordon coming off this fight with Patty, and Bobby Green, you know, he's got a good fan base, so it would have been a good fight, a nice moneymaker, but didn't really go as planned, and now they're kind of just stuck. Bobby Green and Jared Gordon, neither of them really have any leeway in this division. They have nowhere to go, because they've already lost to you got a guy like Bobby Green. He's already lost to Islam Makhachev. He's lost to Drew Dober. He's lost to a lot of top names. These guys don't really have anywhere to go right now. They're kind of stuck, like teetering on the edge of the rankings, and this fight was going to put one of them in a position to fight for a spot in the top 15. So I really think the only thing that you can do now that this fight has been, like, it's been scrapped. There's no winner, no contest. These guys are kind of just stuck. I think you got to run this fight back because we don't really know who the better mixed martial artist is yet. There are a lot of questions. People are still wondering. I mean, as the fight started, it kind of went how I thought it was going to go. Bobby Green was staying defensive, trying to use his Philly shell to counter, but Jared Gordon was still having his moments, finding a right hand here and there. It didn't look like it was going to be a bad fight at all, and then Bobby Green just kind of, that incidental clash of heads happened. Down goes Jared Gordon. Some huge ground and pound comes in. That's the fight. No contest. So yeah, a really sucky finish to the fight for these two guys. I don't think either of the athletes competing in this event wanted this outcome or this result in this fight. So I do feel for them, and I think they got to run this one back because as I said before, there's no leeway for these guys in the division. They don't really have, they're both two guys that people want to see fight. They're entertaining, but they don't really have anyone else to fight that can severely propel them in the rankings. So yeah, I think Bobby King Green and Jared Gordon need to run it back so we can truly see who the better mixed martial artist is, and so we can see who deserves to continue in their quest to a championship belt and fight next for a spot in the top 15, and who does not deserve that opportunity to break in the rankings. So yeah, we don't really know who's better yet, so I'd love to see Jared Gordon and Bobby King Green run it back at a later date. Obviously, Jared Gordon needs some time to recover. That was a severe headbutt. He got hit with some big ground and pound shots, so, rest up, Jared. Respect to both you guys for getting in the ring. As always, I respect all fighters because, as we all know, it is a dangerous task being asked to get into the ring, and these guys do it with such bravery and honor. So I honor every fighter that does that. But again, I want to know who the better mixed martial artist is of these two. So I'd love to see Jared Gordon and Bobby King Green run it back. Now we are going to move on and discuss the main event that ended just as quick as this Bobby Green fight, but in a very different way. So Bruno Silva came up big against Brad Tavares, landing a huge straight right hand, putting Brad out. Now, was that a controversial stoppage? Yes, this co-main event kind of ended with a ... after the ending. A lot of people thought that Brad was still there. He was still with it. He was not unconscious. So people were saying, I heard the commentary booth saying they didn't agree with that stoppage after the fight, and Brad should have been given a chance to prove that he was still there. He should have been given a chance to fight his way back into this mixed martial arts contest. But the ref stopped the fight. It is what it is. He was not defending. He got hit with a big shot. Sometimes you have to prioritize a fighter's health over their ability to fight and their natural instinct to fight. So yeah, I don't mind the stoppage. Was it a little early? Maybe. But again, Bruno Silva landed a picture-perfect right hand that definitely stunned Brad, so I'm not overly upset about the stoppage, especially because it's not a title fight. This fight doesn't have huge implications. Save the guy's brain cells for another fight when he really needs them. I don't mind the stoppage, to be honest with you guys. Now, let's discuss the victor. Bruno Silva came up in a huge way on this card, guys. I totally counted Bruno Silva out. I thought after his last loss against Gerald Mearshart, he was done. I thought that he didn't have the motivation anymore. He was lacking discipline. I thought that going from not getting finished by Alex Pereira to being dropped by GM3, a grappler, I really thought there were some issues with his mentality, and boy, was I wrong. He proved that he is a very well-composed and calm and collected martial artist. He was in the fire. He got hit by Brad Tavares early in that fight. They were going to war in the pocket, and Bruno Silva stayed composed in the pocket, allowed the war to come to him, stayed in the flow of the match, and landed a perfect right hand. Perfect. Right, when I say perfect, it was picture perfect. He threw that right hand, and it clipped Brad Tavares right on the jaw. It was not even the force of that shot that finished the fight. It was the precision of it. Similar to the body shot that Tank Davis landed on Ryan Garcia. It was that precision that finished that fight. It was the placement of that shot, not the power. So yeah, awesome punch from Bruno Silva. I'm very happy with his performance, and I think he's elevated his stock once again Considering that his stock kind of dropped, Dana was probably a little not so happy after his performance against GM3, which was slightly lackluster, but now he's back in a big way in a barn burner. First round knockout, sent the crowd into a frenzy, sent everyone who was watching at home into a freak out. Everyone was screaming after that war of a fight ended in the first round with a knockout by Bruno Silva via right hand. So yeah, that was an awesome fight with an awesome finish. Hats off to Brad Tavares. He's a warrior. He's been around for a while. As I said, you know what you're getting with Brad Tavares when he steps in the octagon, and that is exactly what happened. We got what we expected. Brad Tavares is a dog. He stayed in the pocket. He landed some shots. He's a good fighter. He's never one to be counted out, but he has some holes in his game, and Bruno Silva exploited those holes. He tagged Brad Tavares. Brad Tavares decided to stay in the pocket due to maybe ego or pride, thinking that he could handle Bruno Silva's power, and Bruno Silva just stayed calm, cool, and collected and landed a picture-perfect right hand to the chin, putting Brad Tavares out. So yeah, congratulations to Bruno Silva. Brad Tavares will be back. Now, what is next for these two guys at the middleweight division? That is a very interesting question. You look at a guy like Bruno Silva, who's coming off of a loss to Gerald Meerschaert, but not a bad performance against Alex Poatan Pereira before that, and now he gets this first-round knockout to elevate his stock again. I'm not really sure what you can do with a guy who lost to GM3 so lacklusterly the way he did, but has two solid performances outside of that. I think the best option here is actually to run it back with GM3. GM3 just got knocked out by Joe Pyfer, so his momentum has been stopped. He needs a fight to get back on track, and he also needs a fight where he's probably not going to get knocked out cold. And Bruno Silva and him, they went to the third round in their fight. Obviously, their styles match up for a solid fight. Bruno Silva is back on track with this knockout win, but he needs to rewrite that one loss in his record books and prove that he is better than GM3 to get a shot to crack into the top 15. So yeah, I think running it back with GM3 is the best option for Bruno Silva after this fight because, he has momentum, but he also has a loss on his record that does not look so good for him in terms of whether or not he will move up into the top 15. So I think if he wants to break into the rankings, his best bet would be to rematch GM3, win that fight, prove his one loss in the UFC, or his loss to GM3 was a fluke, so that he can jump up and jump further into the rankings and into the top 15 of that middleweight division. So yeah, awesome job by Bruno Silva, landing that seminal KO blow to end the fight pretty early at that. Guys, it was a barn burner, man. They just went to war, landed some nice shots, and just like that, the fight was over. So yeah, hats off to Bruno Silva. You did amazing. Great way to rebound from a lackluster performance. And he really just stayed composed in the fire and put Brad Tavares to sleep. So congratulations to Bruno Silva, the winner of the middleweight 185-pound co-main event. Now we will move on to the biggest and baddest match of the night. The 265-pound heavyweight matchup in Sergey Pavlovich and Curtis Razor Blaydes ended just like that, as I expected it would, as I expect all heavyweight matches to end in the blink of an eye, and it did just that. Sergey Pavlovich put Curtis Razor Blaydes to sleep in the first round, just as I said he would in the preview that I made to this fight. Guys, I told you Sergey Pavlovich is an absolute monster. I don't know if there's much that can be done to stop this guy. He just has that. He's so big that when he lands, there's not much you can do. I want to come out and say this immediately. Horrible game plan from Curtis Razor Blaydes. I'm really disappointed that a top-level heavyweight like Curtis Blaydes would come in with such a lackluster, such a poor plan, and he just did not know, what are you thinking? You're fighting Sergey Pavlovich, a man who his only defeat in the UFC was due to wrestling, and it was by a guy that you wrestled, Alistair Overeem, a guy that Curtis Razor Blaydes is a better wrestler than because he took Alistair down and defeated him in their fight. Yeah, so Sergey, his only known loss is due to wrestling. You're a great wrestler, and you're fighting this scary monster that has that one punch, that X-Factor power, and you decide to stand and trade with him in the pocket. I really am not sure what Curtis Razor Blaydes was thinking. He never had a chance at winning that fight due to strikes. Sergey Pavlovich, he's bigger than him. He's stronger than him. He's more powerful than him. He's more precise on the feet than him. And he is a better striker than Curtis Razor Blaydes. Sergey Pavlovich is a boxing specialist, and Curtis Razor Blaydes played right into his special ability. Poor game planning from a top heavyweight and his team. So yeah, I do think if Curtis Razor Blaydes used his wrestling a little more, and tried to wear down Sergey Pavlovich and just land ground and pound and eventually go for a late submission or a late TKO finish, I think he had a chance in that fight. But no, he tried to stand and trade with the absolute wrecking ball, the absolute monster in Sergey Pavlovich. And of course, he got knocked out, as I said he would. First round, Sergey Pavlovich puts Curtis Razor Blaydes to sleep. And yeah, Curtis, you got to just do better than that. You have to know who you're fighting. You have to game plan. Now, Sergey Pavlovich had 5 first-round knockouts coming into this fight. I mean, isn't that enough to not try and stand and trade with the guy? No, apparently it wasn't, because Curtis Razor Blaydes did just that, and now Sergey Pavlovich has 6 first-round knockouts in a row. That is by far, standing alone, the longest first-round KO streak in UFC history. So, I mean, yeah, I just am very perplexed at why Curtis Blaydes thought he was going to be able to stand and trade, swing and bang with the swanger and banger of the heavyweight division, a guy who defeated Tai Tuivasa and Derek Lewis by knockout in brawls. He defeated the 2 biggest brawlers in the division at their own game, and then you, Curtis Blaydes, a wrestler, are going to try to brawl the baddest and biggest and best brawler in the heavyweight division. It just didn't make sense. So yeah, Sergey Pavlovich is just the better mixed martial artist. We need to see him fight for that title. Sergey's on another level than Curtis Blaydes. We saw that last night, and you have a guy in Jon Jones who is the undoubted GOAT. He was the greatest fighter of all time, arguably already due to his run at lightweight, and now he is the heavyweight champ. He is the by and far most skilled mixed martial artist of all time. He has every tool in the book, and you have an up-and-comer like Sergey Pavlovich who has that X-Factor power, that Ngannou knockout power. It's almost like that Jones-Ngannou fight that we never got to see. This is how that knockout puncher versus complete mixed martial artist fight would have gone. And we have a chance to see it now that Sergey has established himself as the number 1 contender in the heavyweight division outside of Stipe Miocic. So yeah, I think obviously we're going to have Jon versus Stipe. That's going to be a great fight. I think Jon Jones is too good. I think he's going to win that fight by submission. I think he's just going to be better than Stipe. I don't think it's going to be that close of a fight. And I think we're going to have to see Jon Jones versus Sergey Pavlovich after that. I think that is the only real fight you can make after that dominant showing from Sergey. I mean, he just handled Curtis Blaydes, a top guy. So yeah, Sergey's the real deal, and I want to see him fight for the title. Now, how does that fight go with Sergey and Jon Jones? You know, that's kind of hard because I'm never going to put money against Jon. Jon Jones is the greatest martial artist of all time, in my opinion. He's a great wrestler, and Sergey is a wild striker. He has that power, but he is wild. And that's why I think we saw Ciryl Gane is an incredible striker. He's very talented. Went 5 rounds with Ngannou. Didn't matter. He made 1 mistake against Jon Jones, and Jon made him pay. If you throw 1 looping shot against Jon Jones will evade that shot and take you to the ground, drag you to deep waters, and choke you out, or snap your arm, or submit you pretty much any way he wants. So yes, Sergey would have to be very, very careful in fighting a guy with such a high caliber ground game like Jon Jones. So that fight goes one of 2 ways, in my opinion. I think either Sergey finds his rhythm, finds it early, and knocks Jon out pretty easily, or Jon evades one of Sergey's looping wild punches, takes him down, and submits him in deep waters, again, pretty easily. I think one of those 2 guys, their styles is just going to prevail over the other, and it's going to be a dominant victory for whoever wins. But if I was a betting man, I would definitely place my money on Jon Jones by submission. I think Sergey's just a little too wild, and I think Jon Jones is just a little too good for everybody else. But yeah, guys, that is really all I've got. It was an incredible weekend of fights. I had an amazing time watching this weekend of just mixed martial arts as a whole on display. I had an incredible time watching boxing and the calculated punching chess match that took place between Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis, and I had fun watching the absolute barn burner that went down between the two heavyweights in Sergey Pavlovich and Curtis Razor Blaydes. So yeah, it was a great weekend for mixed martial arts, guys, and a great weekend for the Chokehold Hour, because you know what we do around here. We watch fights and we talk about them, and I got to watch some absolutely electric fights this weekend, and I hope you guys were absolutely electrified by this episode and everything that I had to say, because, man, I'll tell you, I absolutely love fighting, and this weekend is exactly why. I got to watch some of the strongest, most dangerous, but most well-trained and smartest men on the planet go to war and hurt and finish each other and then show respect after war. So yeah, mixed martial arts is awesome, and I love watching mixed martial arts. I love talking about mixed martial arts, and this weekend there was just an abundance of mixed martial arts and combat sports going on. So it was an incredible weekend for the Chokehold Hour. Don't forget to check out my TikTok, guys, at the Chokehold Hour, and stay tuned for my upcoming videos. I'm really excited what's to come. We have UFC bringing us a banger of a main event in Aljamain Sterling and Henry Cejudo for his return fight. Guys, I will be at this fight in person, so stay tuned for live coverage of this event. I'm super excited for what's to come, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.